thought it would be a bit warmer than this. It's really chilly for the middle of June. Hello and welcome back to my garden. I've got a pencil and I'm going to do some gardening today. Now, if you're a novice gardener like me, I would love it if you'd consider subscribing to my channel. Perhaps you can cheer me on in the comments and share some of your expertise. All you need to do is to click the button marked subscribe, and that means next time you open the YouTube app on your phone, your tablet or your computer, one of my videos will be waiting for you. Now, the reason I've got my pencil is that some of my direct sown Nigella seeds are at the stage where they need to be pricked out. Is that a technical word? I thought by direct sowing it meant that I could just scatter my seeds and they would grow, but I've just checked the back of the seed packet and it said the seedlings need spacing out 6 inches, 15 centimetres hand span distance, and rather than spacing them out in rows, the seed packet rather helpfully suggested that I did it in arcs so that the plantings would look more natural. So that is the job for today. I'm really hoping it doesn't take too long, because this is the kind of thing that I don't enjoy. But if I want to have flowers I can cut every week of the year, I've just got to get on and do it. I'm talking about flowers. Watch on to the end of the video, because I have been cutting from my patch and some flowers from my husband's side of the garden, and I'm going to do what I hope is going to be a lovely seasonal flower arrangement featuring a pot that I bought from a car boot sale for 50p. And these are my Nigella seedlings. I'd protected them from the birds and the dog with some silver birch branches. So now I'm thinking the idea will be that I will use my pencil to dig up and just separate them out a little bit. So let's see how that goes. And of course, it's not quite as easy as it looks. I was able to dislodge the soil around the base of the seedlings, but there has been a little bit more root growth than I anticipated, so I can't actually dig them up properly. And on a side note, I've called this pricking out. My husband says that it's not pricking out. That's when you grow seeds in a seed tray and then you move them on to a small pot and then subsequently bigger and bigger pots before they're ready for planting out into your garden. And he also said that I should really have gone through picking out the weak seedlings and thinned them out rather than trying to transplant them, because the seedlings are just so delicate. So you can see that I've swapped out from my pencil to using a silver fork, which has been in my kitchen drawer for absolutely years. I am going to try and use my pencil though for digging little holes to slide my seedlings into, which seem to work quite well, but it's definitely a fiddly business. So firming them in, and then I'll need to water them in before I finish. So as I continue gardening with my pencil and my antique silver fork, do let me know in the comments what your favourite gardening tools are. I soon got fed up of thinning out my seedlings individually, so I've dug up a little clump. I thought, well, now I've dug it up, I may as well actually transplant them to another part of the garden. So I've come to the area of the garden where I planted my zinnias and cosmos last week. This is under the shade of the maple tree, so I'm going to have to make sure I keep this area well watered because it's quite dry. I'm using my fork as a mini trowel, and I've actually bent the tines on it, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of metalwork to bash them back in place. Here's my planting out completed, and what do you reckon the chances are that these are going to be alive tomorrow morning? Of course, they need watering in, so I've decided not to use a watering can because I don't have the rose for the end of it. So I'm going to use a little coffee pot which I picked up from an indoor car boot fair for about 50p a year or so ago. And I think this is actually going to be the perfect tool for the job. And as my reward for doing some proper gardening, I'm going to go around now and see what I can find to cut from my flower cutting patch. First of all, a little bit of light weeding, and then these cranesbill geranium from underneath the bay tree. So I think they've grown up a little bit taller than they would do normally. This is a dwarf variety because they're trying to find the light from under the bay tree. So that's perfect. I want some leggy specimens. And can you spot the roses I'm trying to make my way round to? There's this variety that's sort of a peachy colour which I've been feeding through the bay tree. And then behind the foxgloves is the red rose, which I'm hoping is going to scramble over that trellis eventually. When I buy flowers in the supermarket or the florist, I'm normally thinking carefully about colour combinations, but I quite like the fact that when you're arranging flowers in your garden, you can just go wild with the colours, and because it's all natural specimens, everything's in season, I just think it always really goes well together. So here I am here, cutting some feverfew for a little flash of white. If you're a member of my free Facebook group Flower Start World, or you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll know that I've been away for a few days to visit Rye, and while I was there I bought this book called Outside In by Sean Pritchard, and I first spotted this book in the window of Waterstones on the King's Road when I visited Chelsea in Bloom. So I'll make sure I leave a link to my Facebook group and also to the Chelsea in Bloom video in the description underneath this video. And the reason I'm telling you this is that this is the style of flower arrangement that I want to be able to create from the flowers I've grown at home to enjoy indoors. A sort of old world style, a sort of stately home look, but in a suburban house in the southeast of England. And this is the reason why I'm developing my own cutting garden. I want to have a curated look, and Sean talks in his book about creating a museum of the garden. And I think it gives you confidence when you've seen someone else arrange things in their garden, that you don't have to do full-blown flower arrangements each time. It could be just a couple of rhubarb stems in a vase, or nasturtiums floating in a saucer. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. It's about enjoying what you've got, bringing that indoors and styling it up so it pleases you. You'll notice when I finish my arrangement and put it on my favourite display area in my dining room that I was able to create a little bit of Sean's world in my own very ordinary semi-detached house. I love going to a car boot fair, and I managed to pick up this little silver pot for 50p at the weekend, and I'm going to fix this very old flower frog inside it. It's a pin holder. It's just got some leftover museum wax inside, so I'm just warming that wax up and then giving the pin holder a tight, firm squeeze to hold it in place. And the true test is whether it actually stays in place. So I just need to do a little more firm fixing, just so it's not going to rock around when I arrange my flowers. Coffee pot to the rescue again as I fill my container with water, and then let's have a look at the flowers I'm going to use. I've got a huge allium head, some purple toad flax, I think that is, it self-seeds around a little bit in the garden, a stem of my foxglove, and lemon balm, that makes a good foliage, got a lovely scent to it. That's the feverfew I've just picked. My cranesbill geranium, the lovely bluish colour. And to go with the blues there is scabious. These are on quite short stems too. Although I'm noticing that some of my stems are starting to grow a bit longer, I think again they're sheltered by the ragwort that we got growing in the garden. Fresh cut stems of my red rose, and that is the orangey peach rose you saw me cut. Now, where to start? How do you start when you want to create a flower arrangement and there aren't any instructions? I'm going for the biggest flower first, my allium, I'm cutting it down short. Next, I'm going to create a little bit of height with my foxglove. I'm thinking at the moment that I might have everything sort of drifting off to one side, and my foxglove isn't straight, it's been bending as it's been moving towards the light. So I'm going to have a flash of purple jauntily going off to one side, and then to create a bit of vertical height, adding in my more flimsy stem of the purple toadflax. And you'll see me drawing the vase towards the edge of the table so I can measure up the stem length, letting the stem fall between my knees and the tabletop so I can cut it to the right height. You'll see that my geraniums are causing me a little bit of a problem. The first lot of stems I've put in have been quite juicy, quite fleshy, so it's been really easy to pierce them onto the top of the pins. But with the cranesbill geranium, it's a much finer stem, and I can't get them to stay where I want them to be. So what I'm going to do is take those out, put them to one side for the moment, and then come back in with some of my foliage, the lemon balm, so I can create much more of a structure, so that I can add in the cranesbill geraniums towards the end of making the arrangement. And that means they might not necessarily have their stems impaled on the prongs of the pin holder, but they will be supported by the other bits of greenery. And as I turn my arrangement round, you can see that flash of purple to one side, balanced by a whoosh of green to the other. Coming in with my feverfew next, I'm stripping off the lower leaves of my stems because you don't want any greenery in your water. They'll start to rot off and shorten the life of the rest of your flowers. So I'm going to thread these bits of white feverfew through the green of the feverfew. I'm always trying to make it look as if it was growing in the garden. I'm rearranging it for indoors as if it was a tiny bit of a really lush herbaceous border. So I'm coming back in with those cranesbill geraniums, but you'll see I'll be taking those out again in a moment. I just can't quite get them to sit right just at the moment. And this is part of the enjoyment of arranging flowers. It's not a set process. You have to go with the flow. So if you're a novice flower arranger, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just remember, as long as your flowers are in water, it will be just fine. See? Cranesbill geranium falling out again, but not to worry, it will end up in the right place. Scabious next. I've got two stems, quite short, and the weight of the flower head is making the stems arch over a little bit. So I'm going to put them at the base of my arrangement so their heads can hang out of the vase. Because my huge allium seed head and my length and deep colour of the foxglove are so visually dominant, I'm balancing out my arrangement by putting pretty much everything else in the other half of my container. My geraniums still aren't behaving, they're just moving around a little bit. So I'm going to whip them out once again, being very gentle, set them to one side, and then come back in with my roses. Just try and fill things out a little bit more. I'm going one high and one low, just to separate out the colour a bit and just lead your eye through the arrangement so you get this sense of rhythm and harmony going. You'll see me standing back just so I can get an overall look of things. Have I got everything in the right place? Or does it need adjusting a little bit? And then it's back in with those pesky cranesbill geranium, but now I've got a good body of other flowers and foliage in the container. I should be able to just slide them in through the other stems and they'll hold exactly where I want them to be. Just need to make sure that the cut ends are in water, otherwise they'll die off very quickly. As I turn it round, what do you think? Have I captured the essence of a Sean Pritchard arrangement? And does this say garden in the southeast of England in the middle of June. Let me know what you think in the comments. This is the alcove in my dining room. It's my favourite place for displaying flowers because I can see it from the hall every time I come in through the front door. Even though my silver vase is a footed container, so it's raised up a little bit, I do like to lift my arrangements up. And I've got a couple of books there that I bought at Car Boot Fair. And I'm just thinking about adding in extra little styling details to bring the whole area to life. This is a painting my husband did at an art class. A candlestick that I've painted with a battery-operated candle, and a little amber glass jar there that was given to me by my friend Jan for my birthday. Thank you so much for joining me in the garden today and cheering me on in the comments. And if flower arranging is your thing, don't forget you can always join my monthly online flower arranging class. All you need to do is to join my YouTube membership channel. So if you click the link under the video where it says join, pay your fee to YouTube, and then you can join me next month for a masterclass in flower arranging. Well, that's all for me for now, and I'll see you again next time.